paparazzi, a journalist, or a news opinion columnist present, there would have also been another story biting at the heels of those headlines like a hostile takeover. This story would have a different twist. Instead of a picture of David dancing in the street, it would include a picture of Michal, David's wife, seated in a window above the street and staring down at David with a look of contempt on her face, offering every journalist in Jerusalem a scathing headline to match the king's. Before David could enter the palace, Michal, his wife, came rushing out to confront him like a raging fire moving through a dry forest. How the king of Israel distinguished himself today. He uncovered himself today in the eyes of his servants' maids as one of the foolish ones shamelessly uncovers himself. 2 Samuel 6:20. We don't know if her harsh words began in that moment or if they built into an eruption when David returned home later that evening. What we do know is that David did not measure up to Michal's idea of what the proper protocol for a king should be, and she let him know it. She had no problem calling him a fool, whose behavior dishonored her, the royal family, and the people of the nation. When you read the scripture, you might conclude that David's wife was mad at him because he took off his clothes and danced in the streets. In reality, it wasn't about that. David was physically clothed. Michal was angry because David had taken off the royal robes that were protocol for a king to wear in public. Evidently, he wanted to have a good time singing and dancing in the streets, but the royal robe was too stuffy, too formal. So David removed his garments so that he could join in the party. To Michal, it was ridiculous. It was careless. It was overexposure. For David to be in the streets, vulnerable, expressive, interactive, felt dangerous, even reckless to her. Before we jump to the conclusion that Michal was just a crazy, unreasonable woman, let's remember that we've all spent some time in the window. Uncomfortable with going to the street, we've all made the choice to keep our distance, play it safe, and watch from the window. Window watching has its own window logic. It provides a reasonable argument that says the window is the best, safest position to be in. It is always based on some form of fear that causes people to pull away from participation. That was the case for Michal. The fact that Michal was angry and afraid can, at least in part, be explained by the way she was raised. Her father, King Saul, went from being a fearless leader to becoming insecure and suspicious of everyone around him. By the time David came on the scene, Saul was a paranoid monarch who kept his guard up and kingly status in place 24/7. In the early days of David's teenage life in the palace, Saul was so miserable and troubled that he would send for David to play music to help him relax and find peace of mind. When David played the harp, it served as a sedative to the fears that were driving Saul into a deeper, darker place of seclusion. Window logic tells us that it's not safe to get close to people, to interact with people, or to connect with people. It tells us that we're more likely to get hurt or be taken advantage of if we engage. So the better plan, the safer course of action, always seems to be to pull back and keep your distance from people. Naturally, those types of beliefs are easily transferred from a strong father to his children, and this appeared to be the case with Saul and Michal. Saul's window logic seemed to be the source of Michal's own ideas about proper protocol for a king. In her mind, the window was the right place for her, and if David was going to be in